Hey guys, it's me, Gabriel. Toss that. Coming to you with your evening spark. So, the 10-part series about the characteristics of God's teachers and what those all entail. So, this is part 1 of our 10-part series, and this one we're going to focus on trust. So, when it comes to trust, really, trust is the foundation of a teacher of God. And as we recall, a teacher of God is just someone who holds their own self-interest, a capital S self-interest, in that of another. They see that in another. So there's this shared sense of helping to one another. So anyways, so if you don't got trust, everything else, all these other characteristics are not going to happen. They're not going to flow. You're not going to be joyful if you don't trust somebody. And the manner in which you trust your brother is the manner in which you trust the Holy Spirit. I mean, Jesus says, love God with all of your heart and then love your neighbor as yourself. The manner in which you love your brother, your neighbor, whoever it may be, is the manner in which you're loving God. So that being the case, that's sort of a litmus test for us, a discerning of the waters to be able to discern where we're at in our life. And so as we go along these things, they build off of one another, with it being the foundation of trust. Because the way you have trust in this world, or in the world, is because you've learned that it's not governed by the laws of the world, that though God works in us, as it were, or is in this world, he's not of it, as it were. Neither are we. We are beyond this world. We are more than this world would have us had to be. Like, that doesn't sound right. You're more than this world would proclaim you as. To the world, you're this guilty sinner. You're this terrible person, not deserving of God's love. But to God, to the Holy Spirit, you are his son whom he has created, and that the sting of death and guilt and shame and sin has of no effect. And that's how he sees you. And this process allows us, through these characteristics, to better see that face of Christ in all. That's the end objective. The end objective, actually, of life is forgiveness. And this is what this all gears towards. How can you forgive someone if you don't trust them? Think about that. And why, before I get too far ahead, when you feel this, think back to a time where you really within yourself felt the presence of God. Using that as a template, a spiritual template, you can use that as your reason for why you should trust the Holy Spirit. Because why would you want to, the way you feel, man, is beyond this world. The sun, it shines a little bit brighter, a little bit softer. And yet, within you, it makes you feel all that much warmer. That in that, with that internal spectrum of yourself, you feel that warmth down to your soul, and it helps guide you, heaven word, to the home within that you can see without. And that's what trust can bring. So if you with that, why would you want to choose the trust of the petty trust, of your own strength? There's something more, and it's here, and we can have it. Why would you attempt to fly with broken wings of a sparrow when the mighty wings of an eagle are given before you? And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the ego when the gifts of God are laid before him? So, you might be thinking, well, that's cool and all, that's what trust will get you, but how do you get there? All right, let's jam on in. So, when it comes to developing trust, you first gotta, there's like these 6 periods that you'll go through. The first one is a sort of period of undoing, where things may seem to be taken away from you, where it may be Your girlfriend breaks up with you. She dies. Your wife or husband passes away. A dog passes away. There's all these things of death and doing away or undoing, or things don't go as you would hoped. Didn't mean to get so real with the whole death thing, but hey, it happens. And so all too often we are so caught up in the situation that we don't take ourselves out of it. You never have those times where, like, sometimes something happened, you're like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. This girl rejected me. And then, like, a week later, you realize, like, thank God I wasn't with her. I didn't just dodge a bullet. I dodged a nuclear warhead. There's times where, I've been there. I'm like, thank God. Like, man, God will, even when we're kicking and screaming, the man's helping us out beyond what we can even comprehend. And that's the thing. When you recognize that everything that God gives you is helpful, it opens up a whole new set of avenues. So when something is undone, you can be grateful, because you recognize that the value of it, when in reality what's happening is the value of it is being done away with. It's kind of like it's ran its course and it's time to let it go, cast it back into the sea as a fish, as it were. And then so the next part is this sort of period of sorting out. And what comes of this is you then figuring out what's helpful and what's not helpful. And there's this what's of value to you. And when you recognize that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful, then baby, I tell you, you enter into a whole new world, because then it doesn't come down to whether or not this is helpful or not helpful, but rather it's more on how helpful is this. And I would say the measure for which something is helpful or whether it hampers your spiritual progress is the measure for which you judge and wish to do harm unto one another or yourself. And harm, even simple irritation and annoyance, is something to be cognizant of, because we may think, oh, I don't want to ever punch someone, but hard words, shoot, people commit suicide from the words people speak unto them. So don't think that, just because I don't got a physical wound, that there isn't anything going on in here, because that's sometimes our greatest battles. The physical stuff will eventually heal, but sometimes, man, that mental stuff can stay with you for years, your whole life, if you let it. So when it's anything that's preventing forgiveness is a big part of it also. If it's preventing forgiveness, and this is how I've come to look at it now, is that, okay, if this is going to make me feel guilty, then, and that's the whole sin dichotomy, is that, it often makes us feel guilty and ashamed. Well, and yet we keep on doing it. Well, okay, if you recognize that this is preventing forgiveness of myself, then by that token alone, I will not do it. And I'm going to get down to that. I'm going to talk more about that in the last part, about open-mindedness. But for now, the next part, we don't want to take this video too long, is the period of relinquishment. And often this is where this stuff seems to come into conflict, because now there's parts, it's like when you recognize that there's certain things you need to do away with, and it seems to go against your best interest. Well, your best interests have often been founded on a preconceived notion that was invalid because it was founded on fear, hate, anger. It's kind of like now you have to relinquish the desire to hate and be vindictive towards this person, even though it's made you, there's been a sort of comfort that you've had with it. Now you've got to do away with it, and it's like, no, I can't do that. We can give up everything else for this, to keep our madness intact, but to give away the thing that would bring us the most happiness. That's just too much to ask. That's the backwards thinking that we often carry. If you think about it, holding on to anger and vindictiveness and shame and guilt and all this stuff, it's like, what purpose does it serve to benefit you, man? Now, after all this, after you have done away with that stuff, there's a period of settling down where you can collect yourself, consolidate the thoughts that have gone forward. Now you have it's an open slate. It allows a fresh start to occur, and then this is, I think, where the trust really begins to jam, man, because it's amazing where these companions in life will come about, different friends. And I think your companions may very well be with you right now in your environment, like at your work and what have you. And when you shift your perspective, suddenly that stranger, that enemy that you once had, becomes a brother, becomes a friend. Because now you've shifted your thought that when something they do, it doesn't anger you anymore. Because you look at it as more of an essence of helpfulness, from a foundation of helpfulness, and that the anger you would have would be the dynamic that is not helpful. It's not necessarily what they do, but what you do unto yourself, because you do unto yourself. And it's that following the golden rule. So then it changes how you perceive things. So you come from a hateful world that's suspicious into a forgiven world that is worthy of your time and your love. And then we fall into a period of unsettling, and from here, this is where you start to recognize, like, man, yeah, that really wasn't worth it. Maybe you're just someone who goes out and parties or do drugs, and then you start to realize, that stuff really isn't for me. You're unsettling it. Pretty much you're allowing the sediment to be unsettled and to be cast away. The chafe's in the wheat. It's you're finally allowing that chaff to be burned away. And the end goal of trust is that state of tranquility where we finally come to the period of achievement. And from there, that's when you're in that zone, that state of mind that we talked about earlier, where you feel that sense of peace of God. And why, the thing you got to remember is, why wouldn't you want to seek after that? Seek not after the forms, but the content. Don't say within yourself, oh, I wish I had a girlfriend or boyfriend or this job or that job. No, say within your heart of what you hope for, that I hope to find that which will help me feel accepted, respected, and loved, and recognizing within yourself that you are whole, beloved, and safe, and that from there you express that out unto the world, and having that foundation of trust, recognizing that the Holy Spirit is taking you where He need be, where He may need you be. And that from it, you'll be able to experience the greatest sense of love. Because if you have that trust and recognizing that everything is helpful, you're not going to look at it as, oh, this is so horrible. Even if you don't know how it's all going to turn out, there's a certainty. And this relates into the patience, and we'll get to that later on. But within you, you've got that sense of trust. And it'll develop as these things go on. You start to recognize what is worth putting your trust into. And that's it. So you put your trust in the Holy Spirit, and you go through these things we talked about. And from it, you will come out with a greater sense of trust. And it builds and it grows with these other characteristics. But we'll end it there because we're getting kind of long. But I hope this has helped. Can't wait to see you tomorrow for the next one. It's going to be great. I'm excited. This was probably the longest one, but it's worth putting in the time so that way going forward we'll be well ahead. Anyways, so this is your boy Gabriel signing off. And here at the Wolfpack, we surely wish you well and Godspeed. Peace, friends.